The brain and the ball. A simple analogy. Take one ball. What does it mean to explain something? One can never explain every detail about nature, but a good explanation should give the listener a sense of understanding. And the feeling of understanding is usually based on what the listener already knows on his previous experience. For example, a teacher shows 2 apples when a child is explained 1 + 1. Seeing familiar objects, the child understands what 2 means. To start talking about the brain, we can take an object we have known since childhood. A ball. When a ball is kicked, it starts to move, and a moving ball changes its motion. If the ball hits a wall, it also changes its motion. We see that a contact with surrounding objects changes the ball's movement. We intuitively understand how the ball functions, first interacting with something in the world around it, and then changing its motion in response. If you think about it, this is a principle of existence, not just of the ball, but of everything in this world. Any object interacts with other objects and changes its state as a result. From balls to cells. We can move from inanimate objects to living ones. If we take the smallest organism consisting of just one cell, it turns out that its existence follows the same principle as a ball. Something acts on a single-celled organism in the environment, changing its movement. Even if the cell remains stationary after being affected, the movement of different structures inside the cell changes. In principle, a ball can also be pressed so that it does not change its position, but there will be movement within the ball itself. Its deformation. Despite the complexity of the structure of the living cell, we see that there is a common property with inanimate objects. When influenced, both living and non-living objects exhibit changes in movement, a reaction to external forces. What if we build several balls in a row? Then we can push the first ball in the right direction. It deforms a little and transmits the movement to the second ball, to the third, etc. One can observe all the balls move, transferring motion to each other. As a result, even though it did not make contact with the foot, the last ball in the row reacts after a short time to the push of the foot. Similarly, we can imagine living cells lined up in a row. We push by using some molecule on the first cell, change the movement of structures in the cell, and the motion is passed on to the second cell, then to the third one, etc. The last cell in the row, though not in contact with the first, reacts after a short time. Thus, the last cell in the row changes state, even though it did not directly encounter the molecule that hit it. For several balls arranged in a row, we can say that the last ball received a signal from the first ball about a kick. Similarly, we can say that the last cell received a signal from the first cell about the molecule's impact when several cells are arranged in a row. Groups of cells have more advantages. So far, in our analogy, a living cell is like a ball. It interacts with the environment, changing its movements. It can also transmit movements to other cells, so that for the other cells, there is a signal about the event that took place. Balls, of course, do not need to transmit signals to each other. But for single-celled organisms, it is convenient to receive signals from other organisms. For example, if a colony of unicellular organisms lives on a rock in the water, one unicellular organism senses more nutrient particles and transmits a signal to other organisms. Eventually, they all start moving toward the nutrients. What if a danger exists in the environment? The first single-celled organism might get damaged, but it transmits the signal to the others, and they would start to move away from the danger. In the end, more single-celled organisms will survive than when each of them encounters the threat. There are many thoughts and examples from evolutionists on this subject. But intuitively, it is clear that, unlike balls, living cells may be more comfortable and secure in groups, receiving signals from each other. Among various living cell colonies, better survivors are those with cells on the colony's surface, which have a better sense of nutrient or hazardous molecules. These cells at the surface are also better at transmitting crucial signals to neighboring cells. Also, better survivors are those colonies which react faster with movements in response to a signal. If you follow evolutionists' thinking, this is how part of the cells in a colony become specialized for senses and part specialized for movements. Such colonies with well-connected specialized cells are more likely to survive. Conductance between sensory and motor cells. A colony of interconnected cells with specialized cells is no longer just a colony, but an organism. But that is not all. When the sensitive cell is close to the moving cell and quickly transmits a signal, the colony quickly begins to move. But what if the moving cell is far away from the sensitive cell? Obviously, we need more cells that would quickly conduct the signal from the exposed cells to the moving cells. When there are many cells in the organism, having special cells specialized in quickly conducting the signal between sensitive and motor cells will contribute to survival. Conductive cells are the origin of the nervous system cells. A relatively advanced organism, derived from a colony of cells, has a set of cells for the sensation of the environment, a set of cells for movement, plus conducting cells between them. The further development of sensitive cells leads to sensory organs, and motor cells become muscles. We can clearly see the nervous system's role to conduct signals between the sensory cells and muscles efficiently. This is, for example, what a neurologist checks by tapping with a hammer under the knee. Sensory cells first perceive the hammer, then transmit the signal to nerve cells, which then transfer it to the muscle cells, which contract, causing movement. Conductive cells assemble in the middle. In some primitive creatures, nerve cells are scattered around the body, forming a network. It seems reasonable, but there is a catch. In this network, from the same sensitive cells, there may be different distances to motor cells in different parts of the body. In many situations, body parts do not need to be contracted, depending only on where the signals come faster. Ideally, the entire body should move in a coordinated manner. That is, you first need to collect signals from sensitive cells, evaluate them, and then stimulate the coordinated groups of motor cells so that you get a productive movement of the entire body, not just random twitches. So, it turns out that nerve cells should gather together in the body to collect signals more effectively and then send coordinated motor signals. In an elongated organism, such as a worm, the most convenient grouping of nerve cells is inside, along the axis of the body. When the grouping of nerve cells goes as a cord in the center of the body, the right and left sides of the body can receive signals equally quickly. There are different variations in nature, but the organization of the body by segments is widespread. Each segment of the body has a central group of nerve cells that receive signals from sensory cells and send signals to motor cells of the same segment. If you think about it, body segments give the advantage of short conduction times. Otherwise, signals will go from sensitive cells at one end of the body to the nerve and motor cells at the other. But, of course, there are also some conduction cells between segments, so that each segment of the body does not twitch on its own. With these ideas, we can better understand the principle of movement of an organism resembling a worm. Having a head is useful. However, it is not secure for a worm to move sideways because, in case of danger, a large part of its body would be endangered. It is more secure to move one end of the body, sense the environment, and then pull up the rest of the body in safety. There is a need to concentrate nerve cells on one end of the body to get signals as quickly as possible. To pull that end away in case of danger, turn to another place, and then pull up the rest of the body. As can be easily guessed, the end of the worm's body in the direction of movement is a prototype of the head, and the cluster of nerve cells inside the head is a prototype of the brain. The nerve cord within the worm's body is a prototype of the spinal cord. Curiously enough, even in humans, the spinal cord is organized in segments. It collects information from one body segment and sends signals for movement within this segment. That is why, when you touch a hot object with your hand, your arm muscles contract, not your leg or neck muscles. And if you hit your leg, the muscles in that leg contract, and it automatically moves away from the source of the pain. Similarly, the leg, not the arm, moves when a hammer is tapped below the knee. We don't have to think with our heads to perform these urgent reactions. They are performed within the corresponding segment of the spinal cord. Firstly, there is a reaction at the segment level, and only afterwards does the information reach the brain so that we can think about it. Mechanics and psychic reality. From the ball analogy, we quickly arrived at the concept of the brain and spinal cord, understanding the role of organization of the nerves in the human body in segments. If we combine the brain and spinal cord into a single concept of the brain, we can see the same function of the brain as that of the ball, to perceive influences from the environment and change movement. The principal difference is that the brain is not directly modified by environmental changes, but it receives information about these changes from sensory cells. Rather than moving itself, the brain sends signals to the muscle's motor cells. This is the simplest and most mechanistic explanation of brain function. It is correct but limited to the simplest organisms. In more complex organisms, especially humans, the brain has other functions. For example, many have seen a dog moving its paws in its sleep. Its eyes are closed and it has no feeling of the ground under its paws, but it seems to be running somewhere in its sleep. The movement is not in the outside world, but appears to be in the inner world of the dog's dream. Everyone knows from personal experience that she sees in a dream something that in reality is not and cannot be around when the room is dark and her eyes are closed. And during the day, everyone can close their eyes and imagine something, such as a flower. The brain has its internal psychic reality, which interacts with the reality around it. Psychic reality includes emotions. It also contains speech in humans. We can speak in our dreams. The events of the external world and the mental world do not disappear instantly, but are imprinted for a certain period. This is the function of memory in the brain.